Stewarding a generous culture, I think one of my favorite, if not one of the most important subjects of which I talk about. I like to ask agencies, how many area residents or visitors who walk through the front door of your agency associate it with the need to be generous? How often does your clientele know the story of generosity that enabled his or her support at that agency? Or what would be different in this community if your agency, did not exist? These are fundamental questions that will immediately assess your agency's effectiveness at stewardship. Remember, the philanthropic process is comprised of essentially 5 components: identification, qualification, cultivation, solicitation, and then stewardship. Consistently and uniformly, what I see as I travel the country and among my clients is a failure to truly steward one's donors. We work so hard and spend so much money to get a donor, but we often fall short in properly stewarding that donor. Consequently, the average agency spends 7 times more money to go out and find a new donor as opposed to keeping the existing donor they have. Put another way, we are so busy looking for new donors, we neglect the existing ones right under our noses. So what are you doing that's more important than getting out and stewarding your donors is one of my favorite questions. A huge percentage of donors have no idea the impact of their latest gift. No idea at all. This is both a huge issue and also a huge opportunity for all of us. Again, what are you doing that's more important than stewarding and getting out and thanking your donors? The number one reason a donor does not give again to your agency or any agency is the loss of emotional connection to the work that you do. How many of your donors give once but choose never to give again? I'll tell you a couple of my favorite stories. Many years ago, my mother bought a van for a humane society in our small town in Oregon. And every 90 days, the driver of that agency sends my mother a list of all the animals that they've caught, they've cared for, and they've taken to one place or another. And every year when I say to my mother, you have a few extra dollars in your Oregon community account, what would you like to do with it? She always says, send those dollars to that nice lady who sends me that list every year of the animals that our van helps to take care of. That is great stewardship. I have another favorite story of a lady who lives in Gladstone, Oregon. Her name is Mary. She was a public service nurse for over 40 years. And her son, a doctor, asked me if I would call on her to share with her the story of the hospital where I at that time worked. So I met with Mary, and during the course of our conversation, she went into her bedroom, brought out this big box and tipped it over, and out on the table spilled 40 years of clippings from the local newspaper of all of the work that she had done as a public sector nurse. During the course of our time together, I asked her, Mary, would you be willing to let me take that back to my office and have my assistant make this into a beautiful scrapbook? She said, would you do that? I said, certainly we would do that for you. A couple weeks later, I returned to her home and I gave her the scrapbook. We got to going through it, and she identified a number of people in the scrapbook that she had also gone to school with, people that I later went on and had an opportunity to meet. Before it was all said and done, the people that she identified and Mary had given in excess of $1 million. That is an example of giving a gift before you ask for a gift. For many donors, the act of giving is one of their most meaningful experiences. And for Mary, the act of giving to the agency where I worked at that time was very, very meaningful to her. If you create the right culture, you will not have to work so hard to make the ask. When we think about how many strategic opportunities we miss to provide meaningful and lasting stewardships, it really is staggering. Organizations that attempt only to receive will find themselves working harder, but accomplishing less. The genius is to reverse the cycle and begin with the gift before asking, the gift like I gave to Mary. One of my favorite and frankly most effective services I provide is working with agencies on stewarding a generous culture. What are you doing that's more important than getting out and thanking and stewarding your donors?